First of all, I think your analysis was very straight line. History doesn't run in a straight line.
Kid, you cannot tell your neighbor he is stealing ducks when you are stealing fowls.
As High Commissioner, I was wrong. As Charandas Prasad, I reacted naturally how any person would have.
I did not come here for that kind of abuse. I did not come here for that kind of abuse. If you're going to go along that road, I'll walk off.
But it's all okay once they're talking. If they were talking, I could not have been here today.
You got ADHD.
I got that.
Calm down.
I think I've done enough in terms of taking our team out of trouble from losing.
Come on, Lou Taylor. You got script. I'm reading the script now, and the first person that comes to my mind to play a detective,
Yes,
but
the
an
Guyanese
erratic
Mikhail
detective is Mikhail Rodriguez.
Why an African slap an Indian? Why a man and slap a woman? No, how you deal with that? You deal with that.
We must encourage platforms like this because it brings together different people and allows for discussions to take place in our country on a multiplicity of fundamental issues.
Kingdom, you apologizing for something you think I did is wrong. I don't want you to do that, and you should not have done that. Hi there, welcome to the Freddie Kissoon Show with co-host Akash Persaud. Wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, good night. We may not get in all our questions for the hour because our guest is one of the most controversial Guyanese, and perhaps because of his Guyanese controversies, by extension, is perhaps one of the most controversial political commentator in the Caribbean. He needs no introduction, but there's a dimension to him a few years ago, and that dimension has earned a nickname, Black Pudding Man. The Black Pudding Man controversy goes back to, he said that black people, I'm assuming, I hope I'm not wrong, that he asked somebody about why they buy the black pudding. It's the Indian woman selling black pudding. And he said, why you don't go and patronize your own? Anyway, but he got the name from some of us, Black Pudding Man. Well, tonight our guest is Dr. David Hinds, and we will start with black pudding. Now, I'll ask my cameraman to focus on the black pudding we bought for David. This is David Black Pudding with Marby. And I will have my black pudding. David, please take a piece of black pudding.
I don't eat any black pudding.
This was made specially.
With all due respect.
This was made specially for you.
With all due respect,
David.
Hold on.
Let me have this black pudding. Akash, please have your black pudding.
With all due respect, I have respect for the dignity of people who sell black pudding. I won't join in trivializing it. So I won't partake in this because it is meant to trivialize people who earn a living from this, and I'm not part of that. But
David, where do you eat black pudding from? Do you know where this black pudding was bought? Hold a sec.
I will not join in trivializing people who earn a living from this.
Do you?
And this thing is part of people's culture, their dignity.
My goodness,
and I am not joining in trivializing. Let's move on with Let's move on with the interview. That's what I come from.
Please have, Freddie, tell me what you think. Please have some of this black pudding. Tell me,
Freddie, you know,
you know where this black pudding came from? Where do you?
I can try a piece, but Freddie, you know, I eat one time a day, only at 6, right? So I'm gonna take a little piece.
Tell me if this thing good. Do you know where this black pudding come from?
Freddie, I'm not engaging in any trivialized conversation about people's culture and dignity. I'm not.
We bought black pudding for you from Golden Grove.
I'm not engaging.
I can't understand that.
Well, here,
what about the Marby? The Marby's all right?
Marby, I am not engaging in any discussion.
He's got some of the Marby. Yeah. Look, please drink some of the Marby. The Marby's all right?
Let's move on with the interview.
Marby's all right?
Yes, the Marby's all right.
Freddie, may I have the...
why the black pudding is the controversy and not the movie?
You making black pudding a controversy.
David, this black pudding was bought from Golden Grove. I am not kidding.
Freddie, let's get on with the interview. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for a serious interview.
Akash, our co-host.
Yeah.
This is serious. Yeah.
Dr. Hinds.
Yes, sir.
Let me start by going back to a statement that I heard from you. It must have been over 20 years ago, and it struck me. As a matter of fact, I think it's a good concept. But I would like to have your take on this, and I'll tell you why. Look, and correct me if I'm wrong when I quote what I'm saying here. You said, and this has to be about 20 years, maybe 10, I don't know. It is good to be racial, but bad to be racist. I may get the words wrong, but what was the exact statement? Was that what it was?
I may have been making a distinction between racialism and racism.
Right. So you said it's good to be racial, but bad to be racist. Dr. Hinds, many people are of the opinion that, and I'm telling you, people from all races, because there have been many published articles and so on, that you are a racist. In the context of what you said here, it's good to be racial and bad to be racist. Perhaps some lines were crossed, or perhaps people got the things wrong. But Dr. Hinds, are you racist? I mean, when I look at the statement, it says it's good to be racial and it's bad to be racist. And you did explain to me when I met you a few years ago, the Chronicle, what it was. So let's go back to that a little bit.
Well, I really can't dignify that question. People define things and then put you in that category. I teach children about race.
I know.
All right? And racism has to do with someone who believes in racial superiority. That is, they believe that their race is superior to another race. I have never in my life uttered those sentiments because I don't believe them.
So that's somebody who's racist.
Somebody who's racist.
What is racial?
Racial is people who engage the concept of race. Somebody who accept race as part of your identity. You're racial as somebody who accept class as part of their identity. You call them all kinds of Marxism, communism, or whatever people choose to call classism, or whatever. But a racist is someone who believes that their race is superior to another race. I do not believe that. I have never uttered those words. The other dimension of racism is people who use their prejudices. I don't like you because you're wearing a suit. And if I have power, I'm going to use that power to outlaw suits. Right? I don't like you because you're brown. Your skin is brown. And when I get power, I use my power to discriminate against brown people. That's racism. I have never held power in this country, so even if I had those kinds of sentiments, I could not put them into practice. But the fundamental thing is that racism is about racial superiority and racial inferiority. Racism is the ideology of the concept of racial discrimination. Racism emerged in the mid-1970s in the United States of America as a justification for slavery. My ancestors, and by extension, my generation, we have been at the receiving end and continue to be at the receiving end of racism. And for people to look me, who are fighting against racism, and call me a racist, they're the most backward people. And I don't believe Guyanese are backward. I think Guyanese use concepts conveniently. If this government changes tomorrow, and an African-led government comes to power, Indian people are going to say that man is not racist. I was not a racist between 2015 and 2020 when Freddie and I, although we supported that government, stood up against that government and criticized that government. Indians did not call me a racist. When the government changed, then I become a racist. So I understand the origins of that. And so I don't really take it seriously because I think it's politics. Because I think Guyanese know who and what are racists.
Thank you.
what do you mean just now when you said you were not in power? The APNU comprises of a number of organizations, of which the two leading organizations were the PNC and the WPA. And at the time power was acquired by APNU, you were one of the leading figures in the WPA's hierarchy. I think one can say then that WPA was empowered in government. It means, therefore, you had a say in the formulation of policies as a constituent member of the government.
You should ask the question, did you have a say in the formulation of policy? And the answer is no. And you know that because you were close to the APNU-FC government, and you know that policy was not democratically formulated, meaning that the constituent parties did not participate in policies. Now, my party had one cabinet position, and that is in education. And so therefore it is fair to say that our party would have had something to do with the formulation of education policies between 2015 and 2017 when Dr. Rupenarine held that position. Dr. Rupenarine was fired from that position in 2017 because he was sick. We did not know it at the time. And so therefore they took advantage of that and they fired him for that position. Yes, we can be held responsible for policies in the education ministry between 2015 and 2017. Dr. Thomas was the chairman of Gaisuku. And so therefore he was responsible for policies of Gaisuku at the time that he was there. Dr. Odle functioned at NISIL and so therefore would have been responsible for policy in that area. But in terms of the overall policy of the government, which happened at the level of cabinet, we only had one minister in cabinet, one out of 17 or 18. And so therefore to say that we were part of overall policy of the government is not true. That is not how coalition government, or at least that coalition government worked.
But no coalition government, any of the constituent members have overarching policy. But I want to ask you, I want to give Akash as much time to get to interact with you, because you and I go back donkey years. I think I know you, you know me. Doctor, this is in print. This is in print. Takuma Ogunse wrote a letter, and it was quite bold, and it raised a lot of eyebrows. Takuma Ogunse wrote a letter in which he said, and here his statement is going to contradict your position about the WPA's compartment in the government, education. Ogunse wrote a letter in which he said that Dr. Rupert Rupenarine, the education minister who came from the WPA as part of the government, said he cannot discuss government business with the party. So what policies did the WPA formulated?
No, but that is not contradicting what I'm saying. I'm saying the fact that Dr. Rupenarine was the minister, he was from our party, we have to, in principle, take responsibility for the policies there. Now, you know, as I said, and you just said it, that the WPA did not have any input in the education policy as a party, but Dr. Rupenarine was our co-leader. And he was the minister. And we can't say, because he did not consult us, we do not take responsibility. We take responsibility. We take responsibility for his act of omission. All right? But the truth of the matter is that we did not formulate education policy. You're correct in that.
You said sorry, Akash, sorry.
No, it's fine. No,
you said that you used your word that he was fired.
Yes.
And was he fired?
Yes, he was fired. He was fired. He came into the country. He was asked by the president. The president went to see him at his home and basically relieved him of the position. You remember, I kicked up the storm. And the WPA kicked up the storm, and we had a crisis meeting at State House. And the president effectively said that the ministry was not operating in optimum on the report. That's fired. I was fired from the Ministry of Social Cohesion. I was fired from the Chronicle.
Akash,
Those seem like some unceremonial firings. You know. Look, Dr. Hinds, I follow you for you know, and I went to ASU site. There's the Arizona State University, and it says David Hinds is an associate professor of African American Studies with a concentration in Caribbean and African diaspora studies in the School of Social Transformation. His research interests include governance and politics in the Caribbean, race, ethnicity, and politics in the African diaspora. African diaspora and popular music and sports as political discourse and black political leadership. Dr. Hinds, I listen to you, but is there any real black political leadership in Guyana, especially with this, for want of a better word, bacchanal that will happen recently in the, you know, with this, some people saying there's no transparency within voting. The AFC recently held an election, their Congress, and so did the PNC. We know who their leaders are. But are there majority of the supporters, and this is, I mean, we don't have to spell it out, the majority of the supporters of the opposition right now are black people. Is there real black leadership out there for these people, Dr. Hinds? You speak about it all the time, and we want this.
Let me first of all disassociate the university from anything that I say here.
Yes,
I know.
Yeah.
You're just referencing, but I do not speak for the university at all. So I just want to put that disclaimer there. Yes. There is black political leadership, as there is Indo-Guyanese political leadership, as there is Amerindian political leadership. There are different levels of leadership. There is the black partisan political leadership that you have within the PNC generally. They have provided that kind of partisan electoral leadership. There is black cultural leadership. We have lots of black organizations, AGDA, Coffee 250, PANAF, 1st of August movement, that are providing cultural leadership to the community. And then you have those
Actively?
Very active. IPADG is the umbrella organization of 78 black organizations which function in their communities and provide leadership in their communities. And then you have people like myself who bridge the two, who's part political and part cultural and so on. So there is leadership in the black community, all right? One can critique that leadership, one can ask how effective that leadership is, but there is leadership wherever people are active. They throw up their own leaders. There are some people who parachute and say, I am a leader, but then there are others who evolve as leaders coming out of the community. Somebody like myself, I come out of the village. I started first as a little boy in the village in the 1st of August movement. I then, was part of the Young Askria. Then from there you move into the WPA organization in the village. You come through the ranks, you come up to the top and so on. So leadership evolves. People are always throwing up leadership. You can question the quality of the leadership.
Can you touch on that a bit? Because look, the only way we can fix the problem is by bringing it to the table sometimes. And you spoke about, you said the critique can be made at how effective it really is, how effective the leadership is. But touch on it a bit, Dr. Hinds, because...
But what aspect?
How effective is the leadership then? And what are they providing at this point in time to the young people, especially out there, who needs guidance?
They're providing leadership. In the sense that, look,
tell me.
I walk this country.
So do I.
I walk this country. Black people meet me all the time.
I wouldn't doubt you no more.
Some whisper in my ears. Some tell me publicly. They don't tell me much about WPA.
Okay.
They say, thank you for standing up for black people. Thank you for educating us. Thank you for talking about our pride and dignity. Thank you for giving us confidence. I just came from the bank, and 2-3 people in my 10 minutes in there are thanking me. So we are doing work. We don't know how effective the work is until those to whom the work is directed tell us. And so those of us who are commentators and critics and so forth, we are coming at things from the surface. We are not really going deep and beneath the surface. And this is not a country that is known for polls and deep research and so on and so forth.
Bisram says whole
Right?
polls. Bisram says whole polls.
Bisram, right? And so you don't always have a sense of the public opinions because Guyana has different publics, eh? You have the African public, the Indian public, the Amerindian public, and then you have poor people of all race who, I think there are certain things that they agree on regardless of race, and they have an opinion at that level. But because we are not a society that deals with polls, it's very difficult to tell about how people feel about their leaders, and we have to feel our way. And a lot of times I think we get it wrong.
But sorry, Freddie, just to say this quickly, I believe though then that data should be brought to the fore because what it does, it will encourage other people. So that data should be brought to the fore. If
David,
that is so.
One of the thing that you said there, I would like you to place yourself in the minds of other people and how they feel. Do you know, you said you go, I spend more time in this country. I spend all my time in this country. Good. And I get vibes from people that, I'm wondering if it's not more of the objective reality than the people who, I think there are people who say, Dr. Hinds, thank you. But there are also people across the racial divide that go up to the president and say, thank you for bringing this thing to our village, and it's a black village. Now, how do you put that in the equation? Now, I take a position that was different from the positions I have taken over the past 20 years. People say that I've gone over, that I sell out, or what have you. I traverse Georgetown and Region 4. Every day I'm on the seawall. Every day I'm in the supermarket. And the reception I get from black people, you would think that based on what PNC people, based on what PNC surrogates say, the social media people say, that I should be a reviled figure among black people. And it doesn't happen that way. So my point is, yes, I won't deny that people will come up to you and say, thanks for standing up for black people. But I think black people would say, thank you, Dr. Ali, for bringing some relief to black people.
And what's wrong with that?
No, but
what's wrong with that?
No,
Dr. Ali is the president of this country.
But people would believe that black people wouldn't embrace Dr. Ali.
No, I'm not talking about embrace.
Why they wouldn't embrace him?
I'm not talking about embrace. You ask a question.
Talking about embrace.
You ask a question. You mean give him a beer hug?
No, I'm talking about accept him as a Guyanese that
you mean vote for him?
No, I mean accept him as a Guyanese president that are doing things for African people.
But black people got manners. He don't do things for African people.
He doesn't do things for African people.
He does things for Guyanese. He does things for Guyanese.
Oh, you're making it the last time you're on this program.
Hold on, let me finish. Let me finish what I'm saying.
Yeah, sure.
He does nothing for black people. He does absolutely nothing for black people. He implements policies in which black people benefit at the lower level, the lower tier.
Not the higher level?
No, of that policy. He can't. He belongs. Hold on. He belongs to a political party that elected 30-something members, not a single African. And they're Africans in the PPP. They have an executive of 15, not a single African. By the same, hold on.
Central Committee and the Executive Committee don't have African people.
No, they were co-opted. the Africans.
Kwame McCoy was number 5.
No, he was co-opted.
Kwame McCoy was voted in the Central Committee of the PPP.
Oh yes, there were 2 of them. Yes, Kwame McCoy and Brown. I'm sorry, it's the Central Executive, the 15. There are no African in that.
McCoy is in the
No, he was co-opted. He was not elected. There were 2 Africans out of 35. Now, in the executive, there's no African in 15. No. Let me finish.
But people
let me finish. Go over to the PNC. He observed in his column today that the top 5
4 of the AFC,
all Africans. The AFC, the top 4 or 5, all Africans. I mean, Michael Carrington is mixed, but I mean, by and large, he's African.
Yeah.
What you see in the 3 parties, all right, are in the PPP. All the top executives are Indians. In the AFC, all are Africans. In the PNC, all are Africans. And if our party were to hold an election, it is not going to be much different. And so I'm saying, look at what the people of this country are telling us. They're telling us we want to organize in organizations that look like us. And so the challenge is, what do those parties do? It is the parties now who have to take that racial support, that ethnic support, and cobble it together into an ethnic support. That is why I continue to be in favor of a government of national unity, because our people are signaling to us, we do not want to be led by the other race. Look at the 3 parties. That's the signal. And so all of this thing, no. Black people, Amerindian people, Indian people are always grateful to the government, whether that government is a black government, an Indian government. When the government gives them something, in political science, we call it the gratefulness factor in black politics, right? Where people are grateful for, especially somebody from the outside. Freddie, for example, when Freddie was supportive of the opposition, he was treated like a rock star in the black community. Perhaps some of that is still there. And why? Because there's always been, here's an Indian man who is understanding our pain, who is standing up with us, and they treated him with respect. And if President Ali or whoever were to do what Freddie did in the black community, they'll be treated with respect. I do not think. Let me finish. I do not think President Ali is respected in the black. He's reviled. Saying thanks, Mr. President, for $45,000 because we care is basic manners. That's not embrace. I am telling you, President Ali, Mr. Jack Dio, they are reviled in the black community. Am I proud of it? Do I wish it were different? Yes, I wish it were different.
Research came from David.
It's not research, it's based on my observation and knowledge of that community.
David.
In the same way, if you tell me, as you told me, Indian people call me a racist, I understand that.
From all over.
No, but you don't call me racist.
I think there was an article published where Phillips...
Phillips is black. He's black phenotypically. He's not black ideologically and culturally.
He's a black man.
No, he's not a black man. He's black man
how you could move the goalposts like that?
I am not moving the goalposts. I am merely Mr. Philip is black. He's black phenotypically. He's not black ideologically. He's not black culturally.
Is this what was said about luncheon back in the...
No, the black community had a different relationship.
You always warn me when you come on this program. You always warn me when you come on this program. Let me have my say. So I know you're our guests and you have your say.
Yeah.
But that all means we shouldn't contradict you.
Yeah.
But let us. I mean, David.
Yes.
This man came from Lenora. He came to working class. Why? I want to know, David, what is going through your head that this man cannot use the resources of the state for his people, for his Guyanese people,
that's what
and in the process, do things for disadvantaged African Guyanese, and has elevated them in many villages.
Elevated
that hasn't happened.
Elevated who? Who he elevate? Who he elevate? The young lady that the Americans accused of being an agent of the state?
He has President.
That is the kind
President
of that is the kind of
President
African
Ali
they're
hasn't reached
elevating.
out and have done things to black people, David. Man, thousands of viewers are looking at you.
President Ali is interested in using black people to remain in power. That's all he's interested in. He's not interested in lifting black people economically.
Why he can't do that? What's
I'm
wrong
not
with
saying
him?
he can't do
Why
it.
he can't do it? What's
I
wrong
am
with
not
him?
saying he can't do it. I'm saying he is not doing it. The black community had a different relationship in luncheon.
Okay.
A different relationship than they have with.
But when there was that first collation, somebody did mention that you black but you're red on the inside. Perhaps is that analogy you're coming?
No. There are some Africans in the PPP who attempted to get some policies that are friendly to black people.
What?
In the PPP and luncheon, I'm reliably informed, attempted in some small ways to get some, not handouts, policies. And I understand luncheon was one of those persons who attempt. The others don't. The others are in the PPP, they represent themselves. They don't represent Africans.
It is unfortunate how you take this Guyanese nation and you put them in a deterministic mode. But you know what we have to discuss, and when this interview was arranged, I know the viewers out there want to hear about politics and what's going on here. But David, there are serious dimensions of WPA politics from 74 onwards, post Rodney's death, that need to be part of Guyana's historiography. Now, here's the question I'm going to ask you. I know I take my dog every afternoon to the seawall, and I used to listen to music, and I have a new methodology now. I read while my dog is rummaging looking for mongoose. And last night I was reading Promise of a Revolution by Clement Chung. And Rupert Rupnarine was one of the interviewers in the book. And he made it quite clear in that book that they were stockpiling arms for an assault on the state. Now, I understand Mrs. Rodney is still livid with Rupnarine, but in that book, Promise of a Revolution, which I'm sure you have, and you probably keep a copy in Guyana, he said, it's time these things are made public. Why was Mrs. Rodney livid at that statement?
You would have to ask Mrs. Rodney that. I don't know that she was livid. And if you were saying she
said she was annoyed,
then you should ask her. I can't speak for her. I can't speak for Mrs. Rodney.
Do you think at a very upper level the WPA during Burnham time was compromised?
I cannot discuss it. I don't know. And even if I knew, I wouldn't discuss it.
So you don't think this thing should be part of
I do not know. And even if I knew, I wouldn't discuss it on this program.
Would you write about it?
Even if I knew, I would not write about it.
So that is going to never be part of Guyana historiography?
I don't know. I am not going to write about it.
Or you don't feel as an academic that these things should be left for the next generation to read?
Some things are better left unsaid.
Not when it comes to the politics of a nation, the life of a nation, the history of a nation.
You're an academic, and you've been an academic long enough, and you've been a political activist to know that there are things that happen in politics people take to their grave. Vice President Jack Dio recently said there are things that he and Luncheon took to their grave. So if Luncheon can...
Because it took to their grave, the man is very much alive. If Luncheon
take it to his grave, give me WPA people to take some things with me to the grave.
Akash.
Dr. Hinds, look, as Freddie said, a lot of people like to hear about the politics and when it comes to... Look, the 2020 elections, just after there was that 5 months of uncertainty, and then came all the challenges. Very early in that melee, you called for the destruction of those ballot boxes, and let's go back to the polls again.
How can I call for the destruction I called for the annulling of the elections.
Right, you said,
I used colorful language.
Right, you said destroy those ballot boxes.
I am a literary person.
Right.
And when I said destroy the box, what I really meant, and everybody knew what I meant.
Yes.
I meant, annul the elections, annul the elections, let us set up an interim government, give that interim government about 18 months to 2 to 3 years to clean up the electoral system, and then have fresh elections under the electoral system. That was my proposal. It was supported by Vincent Alexander, because I felt that the country had come to a point. What happened in those 5 months is that the country ground to a halt. And the reason the country ground to a halt is that you have two big parties that have manipulated elections throughout our post-colonial history. And for the first time, they both look each other in the eye and say, I know you thiefing, and the next one say, I know you thiefing too. And that is what brought the country to a halt. And external forces had to intervene to break that. I'm saying, I wasn't waiting on external forces. I basically said, okay, we've come to this impasse. Let us use it to our advantage. Let us set up an interim government. I said, since Granger is already there, the custom whenever you're setting up interim government is that sort, is to let the incumbent remain, but you divide the cabinet and so on equally. And that was my proposal.
But Dr. Hinds, there were people out there, and I'm telling you because I heard this, people saying, David Hinds is right. Get rid of all the boxes, burn them out, let me go back to elections again. Now there was a recount after that. Now, everybody have their own opinion on it. There was a recount that showed that there was that the PPP won by so many thousand votes and all of that.
But Akash, that's not the only thing the recount showed.
You know what?
No. But I understand. As I said, there are many things there are many dynamics.
The recount showed a lot of things.
The recount didn't show anything.
But what
that would have vitiated the legitimate results of the election. But I want to go back.
No, stay on the recount.
No.
Stay on the recount.
No, I'm finished with that.
No.
The recount was legal.
No, you can't have the last say on the recount.
You want to have the last say? You want the last say.
I am saying the recount, the bare recount showed the PPP won.
Right.
If you go back to the terms of reference for the recount, it called for a forensic audit of the votes. And the forensic audit showed that the PPP manipulated the election.
Nothing of the sort, David. Come on.
Day. It showed that there were people in the country who voted that were not there. Not the PNC said that. The police.
No.
The police still have that record.
The CARICOM,
it showed that there were 47 boxes in which there were no statutory documents.
Those statutory documents were taken out by Mingo. Those statutory documents were taken out by Mingo.
All the way,
you're not going to get anywhere with this.
I don't intend to get anywhere. I'm stating the fact.
But I am stating the fact.
But
the CARICOM report referred to those things you were talking about as a fishing expedition. You see, you guys take from a report what you want. There is a summary and a conclusion of the CARICOM recount. And in that report, it said nothing about any occurrence that would have likely to have a different result.
What else the CARICOM report said? I agree the CARICOM report said that. The CARICOM report also said GCOM in its present state cannot conduct a credible election. CARICOM contradicted itself. It said GCOM in its present state cannot carry out a credible election. But after going through 19 boxes, because the mission came here with an objective to break the impasse. And if you send people to break the impasse, that's what they're going to do. But the report, I think, was a very balanced report. A lot of people on the opposition side cuss the CARICOM report. I don't. Because the CARICOM report said two things. It said GCOM in its present state cannot carry out a credible
That doesn't vitiate the election results.
It then went on to say that the PPP won based on what we saw. And what they saw was a sample of 19 boxes or so. Now, the mission came here to break the impasse. They did that, and they went their merry way.
The mission came to assess an election,
but then,
not break any impasse, but we're going to keep going on and on with it.
Right,
But there's something I want you to explain to me, because I think people would like to have, especially academics would like to have the take on this. I would like to go into this intrigue to find out how it happened. You said that the two parties have been manipulating elections. I think when you make that statement, not you, anyone who make that statement, they have to then explain human nature. Now, I am manipulating elections. There are two parties. And party A has been manipulating elections. Party B has been manipulating elections. Now tell me how you got a minority government in 2011 and how you got a change of government in 2015. If you are in power, and this is where Bonham comes in. Bonham was in power and they had election in 2011, Bonham didn't lose in. So how Ramata became a persecuted minority president in 2011, when you're in charge of state power, you're manipulating election. How do you lose election? I remember when the Nicaraguans lose an election, Time magazine carried a cartoon in which Castro is telling Ortega, you lost what? Explain that to us. Explain the minority, the PPP in power, and Ramata became a minority government, and the PPP in power, and they lost government.
Under the coalition in power in 2020, and they lost an election too.
Yeah,
Right.
How, at what point the manipulation broke down and human nature became humanitarian nature?
Freddie, you start to Ramatar?
If I speak to Ramata, yes, I do.
I must ask you what they're discussing the PPP about. And ask him what they're discussing the PPP about. How you were in power and lost that election. And ask why what Grains is getting cost now from opposition.
But why you put intellectual importance on those things?
No, but you have to put intellectual importance. You asked me a question and I'm asking you. If you want to do the research, go and do that research. Go and do that research. Ramatar argues to this day that the election was rigged and that he did not concede the election because he knows it was rigged. And the today PNC people who argue that the 2020 elections were rigged. So you're asking me a question that is self-explanatory. That in both cases, both sides are arguing there were forces other than the party that intervene to put them out of power. Ramatar argues that to this day. He has been on this program, and he said that. And there are people in the PNC who argue the same thing, that Pompeo and others intervene so that they can lose the election.
But why? I don't put any intellectual credence on what those things.
Because you choose not to.
Do their own research.
Because you choose not to. And academics are not unbiased, right? And you are not an unbiased academic. I am not an unbiased academic.
You don't think you should speak for yourself?
No, I can speak for you too.
You told Akash that there's a difference between racialism and racism.
Yes.
And you define racism as saying, look, it is when someone, or it's a viewpoint, or it's the thought or the instinct that this race is inferior to another race.
Yeah.
But one can be a racist without ever coming close to saying those things. They practice the implacable opposition to anything another race do. Now, you stood on this program and said, when Gita Chandan PNC parliamentarian, reacted to what was said about Indian people. You called our slave catcher and said on this program, don't push your mouth in black people's story. How do you think people interpret this? A Guyanese woman reacting to what was said about
a Guyanese woman of another ethnic group. You are a political science professor. There are levels of politics, right? There are politics at the level of race, politics at the level of class, politics at the level of the nation, politics at the level of the region, politics at the level of the world. And so there are levels of politics. When I'm engaging Gita there, I'm engaging Gita at the level of ethnic contestation. That's not the only level of politics. At another level of politics, I will engage Gita differently. Hold on. I met Gita and I told her privately, I had to stop you so that other Indian Guyanese do not get into this friend, take the eyes and pass black people. I'm not playing with that. I do not get into Indian people business. And I would advise black leaders stay out of Indian people business. My issue has always been with the government.
You would advise black people to stay out of Indian people?
Yes.
Every day black leaders cost Indian people and cost the PPP.
Finish. They cost the PPP government.
They cost PPP leaders.
They cost PPP leaders, not the Indian people. Not the Indian people. Not Indian people.
The PPP leaders aren't part of the Indian population. Anyway, don't let me stop you. Don't let me stop you before you say, I'm allowing you to talk.
So yes, if it were to happen again, an Indian leader get themselves involved in that way.
You finish the Moabi.
Yeah, nice. The Moabi is good.
You know who made the Moabi?
And get involved in black people business. I will do the same thing as a gatekeeper to say you are not going to get in and lay the situation to jail black people. You hear from me.
No, but isn't that childish?
No, it's not childish.
Why can't a Guyanese say you cannot speak to Amerindians like that? You cannot speak about black people like that. You cannot speak about Indians like that. All that lady was doing was giving a psychological and sociological reaction to a statement made. How it comes about, keep your mouth out of black people.
And all I was doing was defending black people.
How you could defend the indefensible?
I am defending black people at all costs. Unconditionally, but
irrationally?
No, let me finish. I defend black people unconditionally, but not uncritically. I'm critical of black people every day. But I, as a black person, as a product of the African race in this country, part of my responsibility is to defend them. As one of your heroes once said, if someone used my race to dehumanize me, I'm going to use my race to humanize myself. You know who said that? You know who said that, Akash?
Tell me, man.
Dr. Walter Rodney. Okay. He said one speaks about race today so that one don't have to speak about race tomorrow. But you're misquoting
the great man.
I'm not misquoting him. I'm a student of him. No. I have read almost everything.
That means you read him correctly?
Yes.
That means you read him correctly? Come on. The man concepts were very complex. When the man speak about that, you know what that man did? That man went into court and chastised black people. I was there every day at the trial.
A decade later.
And he said black people should not allow their dignity to be assaulted like that. Rex McKay was getting black people to come along and say, I see a man picketing outside the court. And Father Malcolm was there. What Rodney meant is that if you're going to insult my race by denigrating them, by demonizing them, what Chandan was doing was reacting to what she thinks, and I think most Guyanese believe, was a dehumanizing statement made by one race against another. That should be called out, David.
What dehumanizing statement? Ravi Dev eventually said that indeed the first wave of Indians who came here came from very bad conditions, what they call the slums of Calcutta. That's all that lady was saying, right? Gita did not do a brush up on her own history, and so she instinctively responded to it. And so I had a responsibility.
No. She went beyond that.
Let me finish.
You talk about the conditions. So who are them to be to be talking.
Yeah. But
she went beyond.
But generally, she was factual. She was factual. I don't have to misquote Rodney. Rodney said that when he was in Jamaica, it's in the groundings of my brothers. You go and read the groundings of my brother. He said that there. And what you are quoting him is what he said in 1977 when he came to Guyana, when he wasn't dealing with Black Power.
You know, yes, Akash.
Look, I'm listening to you, and when this great name Rodney comes,
yes,
you cannot hear the name Rodney and not think about WPA.
Right.
Dr. Hinds, you're a representative of the WPA. Are you still a member of the WPA?
Very much so.
Great. So let me ask you.
Is there still a WPO? God,
but that's my question. My question I was going to ask you. The last, when the coalition was in government, the WPA went forward. There was a strong suggestion that we have the power to make a difference. What is the power of the WPA going to the elections next year, Dr.
I don't know. You'll have to ask the pollsters.
But I mean, you said that
you have to ask the pollsters.
But you just said you're in the WPO. I don't ask the pollsters.
No.
The pollsters can say,
Freddie, let me answer the man question, man. Let me answer the man question. The man asked me what is meaning, what is our support.
That's right, exactly.
We can't know that unless they're polls. I mean, I can tell you anecdotally that I believe that there are pockets of electoral support for our party. It's very difficult in a country that is so ethnically divided like ours for third parties to really find an electoral niche. I read Freddie, for example, and Freddie's analysis Freddie is very good at observation, and he conveniently avoids analysis. So Freddie, for example, talks about the AFC being multiracial. The AFC was never multiracial. In 2006, the AFC got the bulk of its votes from Africans. In 2011, Nagamutu left the PPP and brought Indian votes to the PPP. The black people who voted in 2006 for Raphael Trotman went back to the PNC. But by that time, the PNC became APNU. So in 2011 and 2015, so we can't know in 2015 because they were part of a coalition. But one can presume that there was some Indian support for them in 2015. Once the Indian support evaporated, it meant that the AFC was left exposed, right? You're a third party. It's niches, right? And Freddie said it correct, that AFC came in with a niche. The first niche was African was African voters. The second niche was Indian voters. And now
I didn't mean it that.
No, I know you didn't mean that. That is why I'm saying you made you made an observation without analysis, right? So the AFC is not dead. The AFC can find another niche. WPA is not dead. Parties don't die. Parties, especially third parties, you decline.
Don't die?
You decline.
And then you move them away.
You decline, all right? And then the WPA is the only surviving left-wing party of the 1970s that came in. The others have either become
the left-wing in the WPA?
Freddie, listen to what I'm saying.
Okay, I don't.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm saying of the left-wing parties that came in the 1970s, WPA is the only one in the English-speaking Caribbean that is still alive on its own. Is it as vibrant as it used to be? No, it is not. It can't be, because the forces that brought the WPA into being are no longer there. Parties are an outgrowth of what's happening among people, and there's going to be decline and there's going to be uptake. Parties like the AFC and the WPA have to look at the present configuration and figure out what their niche is. How do you take that party with its principles and adjust it to the present situation? The big parties have had to do that. The PPP decide, look, we are going to ditch this Marxist-Leninist thing, and we are going to appeal to two constituencies. We're going to appeal to Indians who want to make plenty money without the state intervening, and we're going to be appealing to those Indians who've always felt that Indians should dominate Guyana. The PPP is pandering to those two instincts in the Indian community. The PNC has to regroup and refocus itself within its constituency. And it is in the process of doing that, and you see the turmoil that's happening in that party. All political parties, we know we're in a petro state. We are part of this geopolitics. The country is more divided than ever. All parties have to adjust to that. There are young people who are out there, they're listening to what's happening, but they feel that this thing ain't really gelling with we.
Dr. Hinds,
all parties have to respond to that.
Dr. Hinds,
Yes.
is it the country that is divided, or is it that the political forces?
The country is divided. If you don't think the country is divided, you're dishonest or blind.
Oh, come on.
This country,
What we saw today,
this country,
I live here.
This country
You
is
come here.
Freddie. I am here as the guest.
Yes.
This country is as
That's your way of shutting me up. That's your way of shutting me up.
this country is more divided than it has ever been.
I mean, things.
And hold on. What divides countries? Ethnically divided countries. When the ethnic groups are fighting over resources. This whole theory was that if you enlarge the pie, then ethnic differences and ethnic division will go away. What we have seen in Guyana is with the enlarging of the pie, if you don't have equitable distribution of the pie, the country becomes most divided, right? Let me tell you all something here. Black people have no, I can't say the things black people tell us about what they want to do to this country. You all are fooling yourself if you all believe black people don't hate this government with a passion.
Well, obviously there will be people who are going to be like that. In any country, there are people like that.
No.
You only get so I can't talk. You only get so I can't talk.
No.
I certainly don't
And
see
when
that.
no, you will not.
I
see-
know blacks that are my trusted friends.
Yeah, but at the same
that
time,
do not see Guyana like
I
that.
am not talking about my trusted friends. I'm talking about the
I'm
masses
talking
of
about
the
there
the
are
blacks.
gonna be pockets.
I'm talking about black
There are
people
gonna be
that I
pockets like
see.
that in any country.
I am saying to you all, those of you all who think that black people are so stupid that you would have a government that don't distribute the resource thing and they're going to hog up the government, you are belittling black people. And hold on. There were forces in the PNC, especially under the Hoyt era, that used to believe they can cut Indian people. They can pretend that they're not a black party and that Indian people will vote for them. And when Indian people put it on upon them in 1992 and 1997, they sober up. And the same thing is going to happen to forces in the Indian community who believe that all you have to do is give them black people some money, give one of them a 2 million contract, and you're going to trap them. You all are belittling black people and don't understand how human beings operate. The fact that you are
He
going
speaks
to...
of black people.
Yes, I do. And I've earned the right to do so. I've earned the right to do so.
You know,
Dr.
I
Hinds,
have earned the right to do so.
speak for black
Yes, I do.
Dr. Hinds, look,
I do.
Let me just say
Yes.
blacks
let
in
me
the
just say
PPP
this.
don't speak for black people.
Let me say
The
this.
blacks in the PPP are
Don't speak
black.
for black people.
The blacks in the PPP are blacks in the PPP.
You know what? You know what? One of my
Yeah.
second question was
Yeah.
Thousands are watching
Yeah.
with you.
on my,
Thousands.
They have to.
yeah, gentlemen, look.
And I listen to you.
They have to.
My second question was on black leadership. Let me
Yes.
tell you something, Dr.
Yes.
Hinds. I lived in a black home
Yeah.
with a black woman
Yes.
for 6 years.
Yes.
And I was privy to things in the home
Yeah.
because it's not a bourgeois family. Tell you
Right,
about it.
right.
When you come out the room, you got walk past 15, 16 people.
Yeah,
back
right,
through.
right.
So you know that setting
Yes,
what I'm
right,
talking about.
right.
I've been in that.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, Dr. Hinds, there are black people out there that generally want better for themselves, and as long as it's presented to them in a way that they can be part of what's happening, they don't really care.
Well, that's what you're saying, and nothing is presented to them in a dignified way.
Really?
I am when you live. Hold on. When you are giving sugar workers who are mainly Indo-Guyanese $250,000 and you're giving teachers who are mainly African Guyanese 6%. How can you look at that and say that is equitability?
It's a different context.
When it comes to the teachers, I take a different position.
But I'm saying this government is assaulting public servant workers every day. Do you see this government licking down and mowing down and bulldozing people's homes in Indian communities?
No, man, that's a different context.
Let me speak. It's in Linden, it's in Hillfoot, it's in Mocha, it's in front of the people restaurant. It's Africans. That is clear. It don't happen in Indian communities. Do you see the police going into Indian communities and shooting their sons in their sleep and shooting them down as they do clean and backers? Come on, you all get real. This government's policies are discriminating against black people. And for you all to believe that that would happen, black people will go and say, oh, you bring $45,000, may I love you, is to believe that black people are fools.
David,
I'm not talking about cash handouts and grants and so on. I'm talking
the cash grant benefited always.
Freddie,
David, I would suggest
sugar workers got $250,000.
That is because of what happened to them under the WPA government.
They were without
The
jobs for a while.
WPA under Clive Thomas.
And what happened to
The WPA under Clive Thomas created suicide. David,
which public servants?
The public servants. The people who work for government, the police, the soldiers, the army,
David,
they don't deserve.
You see this kind of performance? This kind of performance don't do justice to black people.
Yes, it does.
It does. Because when people see...
You cannot determine what is justice for black people. You are not black. Stay out of it. You stay out of it. You invite me here.
Yes, and
I am a representative of black people.
And that means I can't talk about how I feel, I can't talk about my countrymen. I can't talk about... I have 4 siblings who marry black people. I got some black nephews and nieces. If you see them, you won't believe them.
But you are supporting a government that is oppressing black people right now.
I don't believe this government's supporting...
Well, that's my point.
But, David, look, my man go pell to say the time has come. So being with us, I'm sorry I got to put the car here to go.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Catch you later.
My dad would have been proud.